Good morning or good evening, depending on which part of the world you're in. This is James, aka Legion, from the Two Drunk Flings and Friends podcast, coming to you semi-live from Florida. And with me this evening, for me, this morning for him, we have Torsten Blaetter.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us today, and it's a great opportunity for us to be able to interview you.
Well, you're welcome. I really enjoyed your podcast over the past few years, actually a year. Earlier I did not notice it, but after you had Milo on it, it was quite popular for me since I'm a Fling player as well.
Fantastic. So for those of you who are in the know, Torsten recently just utilized the biggest set of brass balls that most have ever seen by putting together the World Cup that just went down in Dornbirn, Austria, correct?
Yep, that's correct.
Already 3 weeks old, still fresh in everybody's minds though.
Yep, and it's going to be even fresher since I just uploaded the database information last night.
I saw that, yeah. People have been waiting on that, obviously eagerly anticipating to see all their NAF results and their standings, and everybody loves their numbers. So I'm familiar with you from having done the Voodoo Tournament series that we have here in Florida and several other states. At the time, that was about 2 years ago, you were doing that for the NAF. So you have a long history with the NAF. How did you get started in, doing more than just playing Blood Bowl? How did you get involved with the NAF?
Actually, I joined the NAF fairly early in 2003, I think. I was at this point still living in the US and attended a Chaos Cup where I ran into Old Man Monkey and all the other guys who actually were more involved in the NAF. And yeah, they just told me about this organization and what they do, and I just loved it from the beginning.
So you joined the NAF at Chaos Cup, and then how did you end up getting involved in, more than that?
Well, over the years, I was unsuccessfully running for some elections. I think first one was treasurer, and then I think was tournament director at one point, where Nate beat me. Actually, I'm happy about that he beat me because he did a great job for being a tournament director and now being a president. And when Mike Davis became president and Dutch Dave stepped down as vice president, he asked me to be the vice president since I was involved already with other things. And so I said, yes, sure.
Challenge accepted.
And ever since then, I'm vice president of the NAF.
That's fantastic. I love when people kind of want to get involved and see how things work and see how they can help and contribute, and certainly you've done far more than your share. So how about regarding tournaments now? So obviously you've just run this past year's World Cup. Prior to that, what other tournaments were you involved in that you either ran or co-ran? I
was actually still in the US running my first tournament in Minnesota. It was the Sorcerer's Stone Cup.
Okay.
Because it was played in the Source in Minnesota, in actually Minneapolis, I think it was. And after I moved over to Europe again, there was this Euro Bowl set up, becoming really, really popular, and I did something similar within Germany. It was so-called D-Bowl, where all the states of Germany was competing against each other. That actually ran for a couple of years, but I was not involved in that anymore. So I did my own little tournament in the backyard with free beer and free burgers.
Burger.
While playing.
Free beer and burgers. That's my type of tournament.
Yeah, it was kind of funny because I was serving food and drinks while the people were playing. So there were basically no breaks in between games. That was just getting wasted and full of food.
Now you sound like me.
Yeah.
Where I have just as much fun running a tournament as I do playing in one.
Yeah, I was not too successful playing. I mean, I won one tournament in Switzerland before there was a trophy. Came on up to second place twice, I think. But mostly I won the Monstanti Awards for playing Flings.
Yay! A man after my own heart. I'm 6 months in to playing a year of Flings.
Oh, you're a rookie.
I am, yeah. And it started years ago in our home league. I live in Florida now, but I was from Pennsylvania originally. And the league that we played in there, the Triple B Blood Bowl League, we had a Fling coach, and he dropped out halfway through. And my friend Tom, who was the commissioner of the league, he's like, well, I don't really want to just give forfeits. He's like, why don't we just leave the team open, and whatever coach has availability, they could just sub in. I'm like, yeah, that's fine. He took a turn subbing in as the Fling coach. Later, I just remember him calling me that night, and he's like, dude, you got to play Flings. Have you ever played them before? I'm like, nope. He's like, you got to do it. It's just wild abandon. I didn't give a shit. I didn't care. I just did what I wanted. And I had so much fun. He's like, you got to try it. So I did. I think it was like maybe 2 matches later, I ended up playing against my friend Roger, who's a pretty experienced coach, and he was playing High Elves. I literally went in with no fucks given. And it was halftime, and I was up 3-0. I just don't think he was expecting Flings being thrown, trees just smashing his team apart. He ended up coming back and tying it up. We finished the match at 3-3, Halflings versus High Elves. But it was right then and there that I knew, holy crap, Halflings could be contenders if played the right way.
Actually, I managed once legendary game against Dieter in our Munich League where I made 3 touchdowns in 2 turns.
Unbelievable, Jeff!
Oh my God, that's awesome.
Coming back from a 0-3 to a 3-3 and then still lost 4-3.
Yeah, but still, that's quite the achievement, though, and that's legendary. You won't forget that anytime soon. Neither will your opponent.
Never. Actually, last night I played Flings in our Munich League again, and actually won against the Chaos team.
Ooh, nice.
Which has almost double the team value.
So you had some inducements. What'd you take?
Took Morg, Carla, and 2 apples, a bribe, and a babe.
Whew. Yeah, Morg. Did you use Morg as your ball carrier?
Nope. I use Flings. Because whenever I use Morg as a ball carrier, he sucks.
Yeah, whenever I use Carla as a ball carrier, she can't pick up the damn ball.
Well, she did a double skull, reroll double skull, and went in the KO box in the first half.
Do you like the new Halfling build that was released a couple months ago?
I'm playing with 2 Hefties right now.
You are using the Hefties. See, I haven't figured out the best way to use them. I'm all about the catchers, love the catchers, but I haven't really worked the Hefties into my roster yet.
Since I'm playing it with the current league setting, I have more or less my catchers already built up, so I did not use them. And the Hefties filled up some 2 empty spots I had. So far, I'm happy with them. Fent drives the people nuts when they play against me, so that's good.
Have you taken Rumbelow Sheepskin out for a ride yet?
Not yet. I just got the mini from Tom Anders during the World Cup, so I have to get him and also Cindy Pie-Whistle painted, so that will take a while.
That'll be a lot of fun once you get those star players on the pitch. I love Rumbelow. He's a lot of fun. Yeah, so 6 months into playing Flings, and the first tournament that I played him in, I actually won the Stunny Cup. And it's part, in fact, due to my last match. I was playing against a guy. I don't know if you've heard of him, but we have a guy here in the States. His name is Doombeard Dave Arvello.
All right, Dave, how's it going? All right.
And he loves his most violent, most casualty award. So we have a guy very similar to him. His name's Jason Carter, and he goes by the moniker Voorhees Carnivian. He wears a hockey mask, like a Jason Friday the 13th hockey mask when he plays. He's always about most casualties. So when he saw he was playing my Flings, all he could think of was just casualties. He didn't care about the ball. So I managed to pick up the ball. I managed to throw a fling, managed to score, managed to run one in. I ended up winning that match 2-1. So the win gave me the Stunny Cup. So the first tournament that I started playing for my year of Flings, I won the Stunny Cup.
Nice.
I took him the Chaos Cup. I played Chris Kakos. So now you were in a league in Minneapolis. You might know the guy because I think he plays in the league now there. This was his first Chaos Cup, I believe. And he played Ogres and I played Halflings for the Stunny Cup, and he ended up beating me pretty good. I took a very unusual, unorthodox team build for Chaos Cup. I ended up taking just 1 tree and 2 star players. And in all my matches, I felt like taking the 1 tree was not a detriment at all. I did well with it until I played him with Ogres. All those Strength 5 Ogres I could not contend with. I needed a second tree and I didn't have him, and he ended up beating me 2-0.
Yeah, I love my trees, unless they are on the ground. That's why I started giving them jump up instead of block.
You know, I've been giving them pro lately. You know, with the take rooted, it helps. With the standing up, it helps. If I roll, a skull or both down, I could re-roll it. Pro, I actually like the skill, but somebody else just told me that they were putting jump up on their trees, and I'm like, really?
Oh, really?
I'll have to give that a try.
Well, it definitely keeps them off the ground.
Yeah, definitely.
Instead of having them roll 3 times of getting up, and then the game is basically past you, they're right there. I don't use them for doing a jump up block, because that's insane with agility 1.
Yeah, that's when you have nothing left to lose, and you're going to start pulling those kind of shenanigans. Now, how do you feel about break tackle on a tree? Keep them kind of agile and getting out of base-to-base contact with other players.
Actually, in league play, I have 1 tree with break tackle and block.
Okay.
and grab. So that's really nice feature. Unless he roots like he did yesterday most of the time, then break tackle's kind of pointless.
Yeah, absolutely. I did not know that you were such a big Fling player.
What?
So that's awesome to find out. Part of the reason why, I like doing these interviews with people is the way that I know you by reputation is through the stuff that you do with the NAF and, you helping me with the tournament series here in Florida. And obviously now with World Cup and running that event. But as far as like an individual coach and what you play when you play tournaments and leagues, I had no idea. So being able to have these conversations with people is fantastic. I love it.
I had my little Flings 2nd edition and 3rd edition Flings painted with checkers pants. I will never ever do this again, especially for the 2nd edition. And the motto of my Flings is Rittermord. You know the little chocolate bars called Rittersport?
Yes.
I think you also have them. And I painted every single one in the colors of the chocolate bars.
That sounds tedious.
And the rerolls, I usually use a 4x4 squares, the little ones.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever I need a reroll, I put it aside. And if it's successful for me, my opponent has to eat it. And if it's unsuccessful, I have to eat it.
That sounds very fair, but tasty.
Mid of half 2, my opponents have a sugar shock. They cannot concentrate anymore.
So you're playing dirty, trying to use the old pie trick.
Of course. It's Flings.
Absolutely. That's right. I have so much fun playing Flings. The team that I'm using is the Iron Golems halfling team that the 2 Drunk Flings helped with the Kickstarter. I love that team.
Yes, I saw that.
The Treemen, however, I love those Treemen, but they're really tall, and I don't have them on wide enough bases, so they're always toppling over, especially the one with his leg up in the air.
Mm.
So I started using Deep Root as a tree, just a standard tree. I love the Deep Root Forge World model. So many people, when that model came out, they either absolutely loved it or they absolutely hated it. And I was one of those people who fell into the love category. I think it's just a great looking model.
In general, I like it. I just don't get the idea with this huge brick in his hand. That's something I don't understand.
Yeah, it was an interesting choice, but I saw some people do some adjustments on that, some conversions, and they put other things in his hand, like a halfling, or I think somebody might have put some food or something like that in his hand, and I thought that's pretty clever to do that.
Yeah, food is nice.
And then there was it might have been for Eurobowl. It was a tree man with the NAF sigil on it, and he was kind of like hunched over. I use him as a secondary tree man. I love that model a lot. But yeah, I love playing halflings. Just having so much fun playing them. And even once this year is up, I'll still continue to play them. But I plan on doing a year of ogres after the halflings are up.
Nah, ogre's nothing for me. I just played them at German Team Bowl. It was a horrible experience.
Yeah, a lot of ones, a lot of boneheads.
It looks like every time my opponent blocked one of those runs, they were just dying immediately.
Oh,
just
yeah.
breathing at them, they're done.
Fodder. They're annoying, though. If they live with the sidestep and the Tinchi, I mean, they just go wherever the hell they want to go. Unless you can break their armor and get them off the pitch, they just get in your way constantly. They're so annoying.
There are 2 Swiss coaches, Yokaero and Strider, who are great in playing ogres. I mean, they won tournaments with them, competitive tournaments.
It's impressive. The best I've done with Flings is I came in 3rd overall in a tournament, and it was 3 rounds. First round, I played a Necro team, and I beat them. Second round, I tied 1-1 against a Chaos Dwarf team. That right there, to me, was a huge win, even though it was a tie. And in my last round, I played a Dark Elf team. It was against a very good coach, and I will readily and freely admit that he was dice fucked at almost every turn, just constantly. I had him pinned to the sideline, and right when I was about to blitz him with one of my flings, he used dump off, and he ended up rolling a 1.
Missed.
Oh.
And I ended up with the ball, and then I ended up scoring, and I had Carla and Rumbelow, and he was just irritated by the end, and I couldn't blame him. So he's like, James, every time you go to do something, you're able to do it. Every time I go to do something, I roll a 1. It's not fair. Like, yeah, but you're playing elves, so it's fair.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, it's very fair. So yeah, that was the best showing so far in the 6 months that I played him. Came in 3rd overall in a 24-plus person tournament. So it was a good day.
Yeah.
Good day to be a fling.
It's always good to be a thing.
It's always good to be a fling, absolutely. Let's talk about the World Cup for a little bit. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, only because everybody's been talking about it.
Just 5 to 10 minutes.
Yeah, sure. What I'm mostly interested in from a tournament organizer standpoint is, after reading your letter, just kind of, touching on what all was involved. That to me was just such a great read. And I really appreciate you taking the time to write what you did. Just so people listening, if they didn't read what you had wrote, why don't you tell us a little bit about everything that you did and were involved in leading up to the World Cup?
Oh, that's like more than 5 to 10 minutes.
Well, in real life, it was like, what, 2 years? Close to 2 years you spent prepping and working towards it?
Actually, a little bit more than that. I think I started in October 2016, basically, when I first came up with the idea to bring it down to this area here.
So it was shortly after Luka.
Yeah, it was just like 3 or 4 weeks before there was an announcement that the NAF is putting a bid out for the World Cup. And everybody was already talking about who's going to be the next one. And Luka was so great, and they feel sorry for the next one.
Yeah, big shoes to fill.
Yeah. So I just thought, well, bring it here in this area because it's a lovely area. And I don't want to drive too far because I'm lazy. And then I just assembled a group of people around me who always wanted to help. And we started from here, looking for a venue big enough for holding 2,000 people roughly. And we kind of chose Dornbirn after internal battle between Friedrichshafen and Dornbirn, two fairgrounds competing against each other. And then we started out thinking about what miniature team we should do, what fundraising ideas we can have, and so on and so on. And the closer we got to the event, more and more ideas came out and more and more details came into place. When the registration started and I was reading, well, we have a deaf player on board, I knew I had to do something for getting a sign language translator into the event itself.
I was not aware of that. That's amazing. I didn't know that.
We had 2 wheelchair people there, actually 3, since one of the players from Holland actually got injured a few days before the event in Dornbirn by riding a bike. And so he was actually sitting in the wheelchair for the first 3 or 4 games, and then his injury went too bad and he had to sit out the rest of the tournament, unfortunately. So we had to make sure the wheelchair people always play at the same tables. And also we had 2 other people who had walking issues, I should say, just because of injuries they suffered in the past. And we also always made sure they always play on the same table. We had to make sure the aisles in between are big enough so whenever you walk past players, you don't bump into their chairs. And at one point when we hit the 1,400 people, we decided we need a second hall in order to allow this room and also give catering a better chance to feed 1,400 people.
Wow. How did you feel when you got to that point where you're like, all right, we just surpassed the total number of attendees for the last World Cup in Luka?
It was an exciting moment at this point. I mean, the thing is, the participant numbers went up in December like exponentially. And I knew where we had to break even numbers. In the beginning of December, we are far away from that. And I was worried, oh God, we're going to lose money like crazy on this one. And then just before Christmas, when we hit the Luka numbers, I was okay. I think we're going to make it. And at this point, I was thinking about Andrea Parella, who did the last World Cup, and how difficult it probably was to get all those numbers in for 912 people. And now exceeding this one, it was like, wow, that's crazy.
I could relate to this on a very small scale, only because I've run probably about 40 some tournaments. And I don't think I've ever come out in the black financially. Most of the time when I run these tournaments, I always end up putting some of my own money into it because I want to run the tournament I want to run. I'm not worried about the money. But when you're talking on a scale of 1,400 people, I can't even, I would imagine that you probably might have had some sleepless nights feeling that pressure or that uncertainty. You know, are we going to break even? Are we going to lose money? Are we going to hit our goals? Like, that's got to be a little nerve-wracking.
Yeah, in December, it was very nerve-wracking at the beginning. Afterwards, it got quite relaxed, except of the 1 month before and 1 month after now, when the bills came in.
Yeah.
That's a little bit nerve-wracking right now. And yeah.
So there were 2 things that you mentioned. One was putting together a team of people. So obviously, for something like this, you couldn't pull it off, by yourself. You had your team of organizers, then you had a team of referees. I don't know any of the people who worked with you in helping you put this World Cup together. So if you could tell me a little bit about them and what they did, I would love to hear it.
Well, the referee part was quite easy. I just talked to Old Man Monkey and Old Man Draco, who were running the refs basically for the last few World Cups. and tell them, oh, you put your people together and I don't worry about this one. This was super easy. For the organizers here, it was logistical a little bit difficult because here in the Lake Constance area, there are not too many Blood Bowl players around. And the event was basically organized by the SBVM, which is a tournament series in southern Germany and Switzerland and Austria, where we got people together. And they're kind of spread out. I mean, Munich is about 2 hours away from me. We have Ingo Trondur and Mark Andy from the Mainz, Heidelberg area, which is like 3 or 4 hours away. We had René, who is our local here. Then we had Milo, who lives in Zurich, which is also 1.5 hours away. So most of the time we did our meetings via Skype, where we talked everything. And most of the local stuff was basically for René and me to organize, talking to the venue, setting up a bank account, and all those things here that we had to do locally. Just before the event itself, people came in, to my taste a little bit late, I think, to help locally with those markers. Mm-hmm. I don't want to go into the markers thing. This was completely underestimated and horrible decision at this point. Not the markers itself, but the way we treated them in the packages. You can read it in the post.
Oh, no, I did. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and hindsight's always 20/20. There are certain things and experiences that you're going to learn from. And, obviously this was a learning experience. So. And
we were lucky to have Christian Schwager on board, who just moved from New Zealand back to Munich or Bavaria in 2016. And his artwork is just amazing. So he did the team for us, he had bid document for us, everything involving graphics and artwork. He was our man to go to.
That's fantastic when you have somebody like that on your team, who can give you those type of things. I'm very fortunate that in Florida here, Florida Blood Bowl, there's a guy that we use, and we're actually childhood friends. I've known him since he was in diapers. His name is Gary.
Who is this Gary character?
Gary Radziak. And he's an artist and he's a stay-at-home dad. And when I started asking him to do Blood Bowl stuff for us, like, hey, I'm running a tournament based off of the movie Ferris Bueller's Day Off, but I want to use Lord Borak.
Bueller?
He's like, what? Who's Lord Borak? So I would explain to him what I wanted. And, sure enough, you would just say, hey, I want this crazy thing. And he would draw it. And it would be amazing. We started doing tournament posters for all the events that we would do. And then we would sign them and put them on the walls at the game stores we'd play at, like large 24 by 36 size posters. Yeah. All the coaches would sign them. Or we started doing 11 by 17, like individual posters that the coaches would take back. And we have a guy in Gainesville, Eric Nyberger. He actually attended the World Cup. His walls in his condo are totally plastered with Blood Bowl posters. I'll have to show you a picture. It's an impressive sight.
Wow. Well, he also bought the World Cup pitch. I just mailed it to him a few days ago.
Oh, really? Oh, he didn't tell me that. I was going to actually reach out to you and see if there were any left. I was tempted to get one.
Actually, yeah, we have a few left. So if you want to have one
on the side for me.
Drop me an email or...
I will send you a message. You know what else I would love to see some pictures of your halfling team, and I would love to post them on the Two Drunk Flings and Friends Facebook page if you don't mind.
Sure. I just have to do it next week.
Yeah, there's no rush. But yeah, having that core group of people around you to help you accomplish your goal is certainly a great thing. I mean, I've never had a situation where I've had to work with a team, though, from a distance and just rely on technology like Skype. Obviously, now that we're a couple of weeks past the event and people are able to see some of the things that they weren't happy with, what they're lacking is kind of the full picture and an appreciation for all of the hard work and just the level of dedication and time and money and effort that went into putting on a tournament like this. I appreciate it. Like I said, I run more tournaments than I play in, and that's just how I've always been. I actually ran a Blood Bowl tournament before I ever played in a NAF tournament. I ran one.
Cool.
I enjoy doing it. And at every turn leading up to it. And, I had the opportunity to go. And my kids are little. They're 8 and 5. I was wrestling with it for about a couple of days. Liam Johnson from the podcast was like, come on, mate. He's like, you got to come. He's like, we'll take care of everything. You just got to show up and play some Blood Bowl, play some Flings. And it was breaking my heart because I really wanted to come. And I just kept thinking, my kids aren't going to understand why I'm in another country, why I'm not home, why they're not going to see me for over a week. And I thought, well, in 4 more years after this World Cup, my kids are going to be older and probably not care what planet I'm on, let alone what country I'm in. So,
Well, bring him along.
I don't know if that's going to fly, but you never know. I mean, I look at someone like Brian, too, who was fortunate to bring his son, JJ, with him. And they weren't just all, older Blood Bowl coaches. There were some younger kids there who were playing.
Actually, yeah, we had 2 schools who sent 2 teams. They usually go to the NAF Championship in Nottingham every year.
Okay.
Stephen Marlowe Stick is a teacher, and he did some Blood Bowl in school and he built up a group of people, young students who play Blood Bowl, enjoy it, paint, and attend the NAF Championship every year. And just before the registration was over, I noticed that we basically have 2 slots open for 2 squads, basically. And I asked him, you know what? If you manage somehow to bring students over here, I waive you the entrance fee for each student.
That's awesome.
And they talked to the school presidents, the parents, and they pulled it off. So they came with 10 students and 2 teachers, and they just had a blast. Unfortunately, they had to leave earlier on Sunday, so the last game was quite rushed.
Yeah.
Because they had to catch a plane. Yeah, but I think they just enjoyed it.
Oh, I'm sure they did. That sounds like you'd be having the time of your life at that age to be able to attend an event like that. And the guy, the teacher who is having these kids learn how to play Blood Bowl and paint and everything, that guy deserves a medal.
What a guy. What a guy. What a guy.
Because that is a great way to recruit new players for Blood Bowl. Start them off young.
Actually, he put a nice document on Talk Fantasy Football on how he started it and how he would run a school league and things like this. It's very, very interesting post to read. I really can recommend this one.
I will. I'll have to check it out. I don't spend as much time as I should on Talk Fantasy Football on the forums. The old guard Blood Bowl coaches, I know that that's their bread and butter. They spend a lot of time on there, whereas a lot of the newer players are all about the social media, the Instagram and the Twitter and the Facebook. But yeah, there's a lot of good stuff, a lot of good content that you can find on the forums, the Talk Fantasy Football. So the other thing that I heard you say that I'm just curious about is you did some fundraising for the event. What kind of fundraising did you do and how successful was it?
We mostly asked the vendors to send up some goods. Instead of they had to pay for the booth, and also they can split it up a little bit by cash and by sending goods. And we ran a couple of raffles on a larger tournament to get some money. This was quite successful, I have to say. We also did the 2 t-shirts for the World Cup team, which we sent around. That was 50-50% successful, I think, because we still have tons of t-shirts left. Yeah, this was about it. Mostly it was raffles and those t-shirts.
I bought one of those t-shirts at not this past year, but the year before at Chaos Cup, which was my first Chaos Cup. I like that t-shirt.
Yeah.
That was the guy who did the artwork that you were talking about from...
Yep.
Yeah.
Christian, yeah.
Fantastic artwork. So World Cup in and of itself, from the guy sitting at home watching everybody there, it was hard for me because I wanted to be there, but it was hard for me to see a lot of the social media posts where people, they were being internet trolls, in my opinion. If you're outside of your league, outside of your hometown, outside of your country even, and you're surrounded by people of a like-minded nature who enjoy and have a passion, love doing the same thing you're doing, and you're with your friends, and you're drinking beer, and you're having food, and you're playing Blood Bowl, and you're having a good time, I can't even imagine what there could possibly be to gripe about. I mean, things aren't always going to go according to plan, but there just seemed to be, at least at first, just more than I would like to see, too much negative energy coming out of that. And, obviously you hit some hurdles in the event regarding the software or, just teams dropping and having to schedule and organize things. And I'm going to say now what I said in response to what you posted is thank you for not giving up, for following through, for pushing to make it right and make it better, make it 100%. I feel like most people wouldn't even try. Like once they got to a point where they felt defeated, they would just find a shortcut or give up or not make it as good as they possibly can. But you really, from my perspective, as an outsider looking at the whole thing with that certain kind of perspective, being at home and not being there, I feel you did a great job of turning it around. So hats off.
I mean, I was close to giving up at 2 points. One was Thursday night when I lost the dropped out coaches list.
Mm-hmm.
I thought at this point it was lost.
You found out the next morning when you went back to the venue, right?
Yeah, right. After game 1, when I found out the other issue, I was like, oh shit, I just want to go home now. But I mean, there were 1,400 people out there getting more and more frustrated, and believe me, I was getting even more frustrated with everything what's going on there. I'm just glad that Milo was there all the time and working his ass off, even with his health conditioning getting worse by the minute, basically. I mean, in a regular situation, he should have stayed home in bed and get his cold and sinus infection all taken care of. But no, he was there and saved basically our asses everywhere. I mean, he was helping out left and right. He was in the front taking changes to the squad, 7-man squads, and correcting results and everything. And people misclicked on the web application. Even during the whole 2 years leading up to this one, I mean, when we started setting out the software, we talked about, should we do it paperwork like we had in Luca? But we knew we didn't have enough people actually to run 4 or 5 computers at the same time. So I wrote this Excel software to do the draw and everything. And we wanted to have an app where we just can show the results and do other stuff. But unfortunately, we're let down by the professional app programmers twice actually. And Milo stepped in and did this wonderful web application based on Microsoft ASPX programming. And we are the first ones, to my knowledge, maybe there are some others out, which have online data entry and processing of everything. And when we did this the first time at UKTC and later on also at Italian Team Cup and German Team Ball, we knew the software was capable of handling everything and everything was running smoothly. The results were getting in fast. People just needed to get used to the input-output system, basically, that all captains have to approve their data and then have to verify if the opponent coach or the opponent captain did it correctly, and then you have the ping pong in case there was an error. I think the way it was set up by Milo was just awesome. Everything else behind the software was also working, unless you put wrong data in like I did, to the worst possible timing. But other than that, I mean, there's no software right now on the market or on the free capability of handling 1,400 people. And it's also something what people don't understand really. I mean, if you run a 300 people tournament like the Euro Bowl, Score is handling those things well. And even Mike Davis did a great job and setting up Score that way that he can handle 300 to 400 people. But honestly, I don't know if Score can handle 1,400.
Yeah, it's a big ask. And you don't find these things out until, you could do all the testing you want and shit is still going to happen. Nuffle screws your dice, but Nuffle also hates software too.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I've had Score do some funky weird shit on me, and everybody's waiting and you're starting the application, saving the BBD file as something else, just trying to get it to work. I mean, there's been once or twice where Score has screwed me, and I love using Score. Some people I know will use Excel spreadsheets or paper. They don't even bother with the software. I love Score.
Score's great.
It is fantastic. But I've had a few times where I've actually had to go and even re-enter a lot of the data because something got screwed up. And it just happens. And you're coming from somebody who works in IT, sometimes you spend more time trying to figure out the reason why as opposed to figuring out the way through it. And you just need to move forward and get on with it and figure out the best way to get to where you need to be. So it is what it is. I mean, technology is supposed to make our life easier, but sometimes, it screws you.
Yeah. I mean, this is also the reason why I started out with doing the Excel sheet with VBA macro programming, because I knew if something goes wrong, I knew exactly where to look and how to change the code and everything. Unless for Score, I don't know how it works. I don't know the programming language. If something goes wrong, I'm completely lost and I have nobody there to help me.
Right. You got to stick with what you know.
The huge delays to the World Cup were not because I couldn't find the source or the code problems. It was all the huge mass of data, which was at one point missing, basically, which had to be re-entered or changed. And this had nothing to do with the code. The program itself worked as it's supposed to do, but shit out, it's typical principle.
Yeah, and when you're re-entering data, it's time-consuming. So there's no doubt about that. But no, I think you recovered wonderfully. I think you did a great job powering through it and keeping it going. And I hope everybody appreciates that. I hope everybody takes the time to, read your letter that you posted on Facebook. That was on the World Cup Facebook page, I believe.
I also posted it in the NAF forum and also on Talk Football and also on the French forum. Actually, the French were the first ones to read it.
And how did the French respond?
Good. Actually, some people talk bad about French people. I learned that the French community is probably the best organized community worldwide. They have a huge amount of humor, and they're just accommodating to everything you throw at them, basically. They complain, but that's the usual, like Germans always complain as well, but at the end, basically, they stand behind you.
See, people don't know, and this is one of the things as a tournament organizer, is encouraging, people in leagues. Like in Florida, I think we probably have like about 5 or 6 leagues that I know of. And we're all encouraging each other to travel outside of Florida, travel outside of the country, go to Canada, travel outside of this continent and go overseas and play Blood Bowl, because it changes your perspective on everything, on the game and the people and how you play. We call them Blood Bowl ambassadors, and we had 2 from Florida, 3 actually. And the beauty of it is when these coaches come back, they're now telling every coach, hey, I was at World Cup and you have to go next time. You have to go. If you can't go, you have to go to Euro Bowl. You have to go to
a Miracle Cup.
A Miracle Cup, right. And we are. I went to a Miracle Cup for the first time in Virginia, and we put in a bid to try and bring it to Florida. But in my heart of hearts, I wanted to go to Canada. So I'd been there before, but I knew I wanted to go back to Canada. So I was secretly hoping they would win the bid, one of the Canadian teams putting in a bid. And I'm friends with all these guys. So I'm so happy that they're going to be doing a Miracle Cup, and we have at least one team, probably a strong second team, and possibly even a third team just from Florida going. When Eric came back, he's like, you guys got to go to the next World Cup. You have to go. Yeah. So there's already several of us who are planning it.
I'm also trying to get the team together for a Miracle Cup next year. So
I hope you can do it.
You may see some Bavarians there.
I hope so. I'm fortunate because, for those of you who don't know, Jim Lanier is Old Man Monkey, and he's been with the NAF for a long time. I think he was the original treasurer.
Yep.
And he's over in Tampa, and he ran one of the biggest and first Blood Bowl tournaments here in Florida, the Three Kingdoms Challenge. At the time, people from Specialist Games came over from Games Workshop to be at this tournament. It was a big deal. And he ran it for 3 years in a row. And then, Jim moved on to some other things. And when I moved to Florida and started looking at the history of Blood Bowl here, I saw this tournament and I wanted to bring it back to Florida and have it be like our signature tournament. And I remember reaching out to Jim for the first time, talking to him about, can I run this tournament? This was your tournament. Can I have your permission to do it? Not only did he give me his permission to do it, but he worked closely with me to help me do it. And in doing so, we forged a great friendship. And I love every opportunity that I have to hang out with him. So to be able to, have an evening for me or a morning for you and spend some time talking about your experiences with World Cup and Blood Bowl in general, and finding out things about you that I didn't know before. I can't even begin to tell you how much I truly appreciate you spending the time to do that. So I want to say thank you.
You're welcome.
But yeah, Jim is we do a AMA. It's a live thing we do, and we broadcast it live on YouTube, and people chat. And we've had Jim on there a few times, and inevitably it all goes the same way. We start talking about something, then Jim will start talking, and then it'll be an hour and a half of Jim talking, and we're all just like listening to him, like transfixed, like Old Man Monkey's telling us a story. We're waiting on every word. We love listening to him tell stories about Blood Bowl, in the early days, and about the NAF, and about all of his experiences. And I mean, how cool is that?
Yeah.
Same as you. So I love that stuff. And, I want to do that stuff. Like next year, I plan on doing 2 things: traveling to tournaments that I want to go to in the U.S. here. Brian, too, runs Rocky Mountain Rampage I want to go to. Solomon runs the Underworld Cup. Mark Perry runs Sin City Bowl I want to go to. There's so many. And then with Miracle up in Canada, I'm finally going to Oklahoma and Spiky in March. So it'll be 20 some hours in an RV with 11 other guys. But it is probably going to be the best Blood Bowl road trip ever.
Definitely.
And if not, we're going to make it so. And the other thing I want to do next year is I want to do more charity work. I admire guys like Jamie Fisher and Nate Beam for the charity work that they do in putting together these tournaments and raising funds for, any charity is a good one. That's something that I haven't done yet and I want to do.
I mean, the Blood Bowl community is really amazing. I mean, when I talked to the security guys at the World Cup, they said it was amazing to see such a group highly intoxicated by alcohol.
Drink!
and still so peaceful, friendly, hugging everyone and enjoying themselves. Even Thursday night with the people standing in line for hours, and on Friday not being able to play, everything was calm. People were talking to each other and enjoying themselves. And the security guys said this was one of the easiest jobs they ever had.
That's fantastic. I've heard from a lot of other gamers, whether they play, video games, or whether they play 40K, or it doesn't matter what they play. I hear the same thing constantly, that the Blood Bowl community is the best gaming community out there. And I have to agree. I think for the most part, the people embrace each other and are happy to help each other with whatever, whether it's trying to find a set of dice, whether it's helping somebody get to a tournament. It doesn't matter what it is. I think everybody in the Blood Bowl community are very accommodating for the most part. It is a great group of people.
Definitely are.
Now that World Cup is over, what are your plans for 2020? Besides taking, a well-deserved break.
Nope.
Break? What's the break?
If you want. You're probably already knee-deep in like 5 other projects. Who knows?
No projects. Maybe some painting projects, which have been on the back for like 3 years now. But actually, I want to attend some tournaments I was invited to. Definitely want to try to go to America Cup. I want to go to one of the French tournaments, probably pronounce it wrong, Nice, the south of Lyon and Geneva, in the mountains somewhere. I want to go to one of the English tournaments, if possible, Brexit allowing traveling. You never know. Also want to go down to Spain for the first time, maybe do some Italian tournaments more. Definitely go to Palinka Bowl in Budapest again. And of course, Euro Bowl in Poland is on my list.
I would love to go to Euro Bowl.
And of course, all the local tournaments. Well, not all the tournaments, but my ones which are fixed points, like the Royal Rumble close to Munich, is always a must. Then my own little tournament on Father's Day. Yeah, just Blood Bowl everywhere.
There is, and I feel like you got to experience it. Before World Cup, Nate Beam and a couple of other coaches, I think, were over in Spain for a tournament over there, and seeing pictures coming back with the coaches and the food and just everybody having a good time. It was more than just being at the Blood Bowl tournament. It looked like it was just an awesome experience in and of itself. And then you have Blood Bowl as the proverbial cherry on top of the ice cream sundae.
Yep.
I recommend, and certainly I'm going to be trying to do so myself, is traveling to some of these Blood Bowl tournaments in other countries. I just think it would be a real eye-opener and an overall good experience for a person, just being a person, let alone a Blood Bowl coach. With all the Blood Bowl that you play, do you play many variants like Sevens or Street Bowl or Dungeon Bowl?
Never ever had, but always treat to do so.
We do a lot of variants here in Florida, and the Sevens is starting to catch on. It's being played up in Canada and Washington. They do Street Ball in Virginia. I'd be curious to know someone like Jim. I was asking him about it too, and he's just like, yeah, I get that. But I'm curious to know, like, with people who have a long history of playing Blood Bowl or standard Blood Bowl or 11s, how they feel about the variants and playing them.
Well, basically for me, it's just a lack of opportunity to play it with someone. I mean, I play in the Munich League, where we have also a Sevens League or sub-league going on. But
is that like a development league, like to start prior to like the full league?
No, actually in Munich we have several divisions running in parallel. We have the Premier Division, where all the high-ranked teams are playing, and then we have the Rookie Division, which is rookie because you always start with the rookie teams for one season and then start over. Then there's the Open League, where whoever wants to play with whatever team you just play. You can also basically create a team there to play in Open League and then later on go to Premier with that one. And also we have the subdivision for Blood Bowl Sevens, full league running, completely separate from all the other ones. We also have like a newbies league where all the new coaches, whoever are there and wants to create their own league so they don't go against the veterans and get beaten by them constantly.
Say my name, bitch!
Are you using like OBBLM to manage these leagues?
Yep, we do, but I'm not the commissioner, fortunately.
I had the pleasure of speaking with Tim Ivey. Is that how you pronounce his last name?
Ibe.
What a classy gentleman this guy is. I was looking for some help with my OBBLM, and he volunteered to help me. He did a team viewer session with me, spent over an hour and a half with me, and I learned so much from him. And sure enough, I learned that he knows Old Man Monkey as well. Everybody knows Old Man Monkey.
Yeah.
I had nothing but
that's a
great
given.
things to say about Jim.
Yeah.
But yeah, Tim, what a stand-up guy, what a great guy. He doesn't know me at all, and he takes the time out of his day to help me with my OBBLN. And I learned so much from him. So
Tim, I met the first time in the US, actually, even though he's in Germany.
Mhm.
But we both went to Underworld Cup in Michigan that one year. He was on a business trip and found out, okay, this is one closed tournament. He just goes there. Funny thing is, it was run by Americans. There were Canadians there and 2 Germans. Tim actually won the tournament. A Canadian came second. Then it was me third. And I think Olman Maki was best American on 5th place or so. It was just hilarious.
that's hilarious. Yeah, speaking of like winning tournaments, so the first tournament that I ran before I ever played in one was back in Pennsylvania, and I was very fortunate where I had Nate Beam helping me, set up and organize and run the tournament, along with Steve and Scott from the Both Down podcast were very much willing to help me run my first tournament. So the guys from Virginia, I think a bunch of them came up in a car, maybe 5 or 6 of them, and they walked off with all of our prizes. They won like first, second, third, most touchdowns, casualties, stunny. They annihilated everybody who was local in my area. So all our Blood Bowl players were so disheartened by the whole thing. They wanted to run a tournament that was not NAF, just like, an unofficial tournament just for, locals, so they can kind of get some tournament experience underneath their belt. So I organized the tournament. I ended up playing in the tournament. I ended up winning the tournament. So the only tournament that I've ever won is a non-NAF tournament. So I find that kind of ironic.
Yeah. I won my only tournament in 2003, I think, in Switzerland. And at this point, there was not NAF trophy. So everybody wants tournaments, has that little NAF trophy, and
Yep.
I'm one of the few who doesn't.
I learned early on, I take much more satisfaction and happiness in running a tournament and seeing others participate and have fun and, getting people into the game, expanding, growing the hobby. I get more out of that than I actually do playing in the tournaments. I mean, I love playing Flings and I love playing Blood Bowl in general, but for me, I found my niche. So I like doing what I do and encouraging others to do what they want to do. If somebody comes to me and says, hey, I want to run a tournament, but I have no idea how. I love being the guy to be able to help them, point them in the right direction. I love helping people, especially in Blood Bowl. Always a good time. Well, I think that I've probably eaten up a lot of your time this morning. There's probably some breakfast waiting for you or a good cup of coffee.
Yep.
And there's a pillow waiting for me. It is now almost 2 a.m. here in the States. And I want to say thank you, Torsten, for all of your hard work going into the World Cup and all that you do for Blood Bowl and for the NAF. On behalf of the Two Drunk Flings and Friends podcast, I want to say thank you. On behalf of the Blood Bowl community, I want to say thank you. On behalf of one of your biggest fans, Eric Nyberger, he wants to say thank you. I wanted to make sure that I told you that. Thank you for spending some time with me tonight, your morning, and talking about all things Blood Bowl. I appreciate it.
You're welcome, and wish you a good night now. Get some rest, and probably talk to each other in one of the days.
Yes, definitely. I'll reach out to you because I do want to see that halfling team that you painted with chocolate bars. And hopefully I look forward to seeing you at a Morphle Cup. I hope you can make that work.
Yeah, maybe with Flings. I don't know if they let me.
I'll be playing. My year will be up.
Yeah.
Taking Flings to the Morphle Cup. That'll be a good place to finish my year. Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. And I will talk to you soon.
Yep. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
All right, so this is James, a.k.a. Legion, saying good morning, good night, and looking forward to the next interview. We have a couple of good ones lined up. We'll be talking to one of our fling mates, Monty, who does a lot of Blood Bowl on the computer. Everybody knows who he is. I think we're going to set up a match where I play him and he embarrasses me, but it'll all be for fun, so that's okay. So we got a lot more good stuff coming up for you in the weeks ahead. Thanks for listening. Keep playing more Blood Bowl.